All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're diving into a security concept that is so extreme, so totally uncompromising that it has the perfect name, the Paranoia Protocol. And trust me, this is not your average firewall. This is a journey into a world built on absolute architectural mistrust. So let's just jump right in with the one idea that really sums this whole thing up. This quote, it's perfect. Imagine a system that's not just worried about the outside world, but assumes its own responses, its own results could be weaponized. That's a whole different level of thinking. So what does that even mean, right? To build an entire system based on paranoia. It means you take that healthy skepticism every security expert has, and you bake it right into the code, into the infrastructure itself. Well, it all starts by just completely throwing out our normal ideas about trust. Architectural paranoia isn't some feature you tack on at the end. No, it's the foundation. It's a system designed from the ground up to expect the absolute worst from everything and everyone all of the time. And you've got to understand, this is a huge departure from how we normally do security. Most systems, they're all about building a strong wall, right? Protecting the good guys on the inside from the bad guys on the outside. This protocol, it assumes the inside could be just as bad, treating every single transaction like a potential insider threat. Okay, this slide really hits the nail on the head. Think about it this way. Typical security is like a bouncer at a club. It checks your ID, asks, are you who you say you are? Are you on the list? It's all about establishing trust. The Paranoia Protocol, it's a hazmat team. It doesn't care who you are. It just assumes you're contaminated, and its only job is to handle you in a sterile environment so you can't do any harm. Your identity, your trustworthiness, it's totally irrelevant. Okay, so that's the philosophy, but how do you actually build something this paranoid? Well, it all comes down to this core mechanism, a concept that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, the data airlock. And right away, you hit the huge technical problem. I mean, a disposable, self-destructing sandbox for every single transaction, millions of times a day? How could you possibly do that without the whole system just grinding to a complete halt? It just seems impossible. And here's the answer. It's this amazing piece of technology called the micro VM. If you look at this table, you can see why it's such a game changer. Your old school virtual machines, super secure, but they take minutes to start, way too slow. Containers are fast, but their security isn't as robust. But micro VMs, like Firecracker from AWS, give you the hardware-level security of a VM at almost the crazy speed of a container. It's the best of both worlds. So check this out. This is the entire life of a single API call, and it happens in the blink of an eye. A request comes in. Boom! A brand new, sterile micro VM is created from scratch. The code runs inside, completely walled off, the result gets passed out, and then, poof, the entire micro VM with all its data is instantly destroyed forever. No logs, no cache, no trace. It's like it never even happened. But oh no, we are not done being paranoid. Not even close. Just because you process the request in a clean room doesn't mean you can trust the result that came out. The protocol assumes the output itself could have been booby-trapped. So get this, the first sandbox does its job and gets vaporized, and then the system spins up a second one, a completely separate, sterile room, just to host an AI that inspects the results from the first sterile room. It's a decontamination chamber for the data that just came out of another decontamination chamber. It's wild. And you have to ask, right, isn't that just insane? A little redundant? Why on earth would you need to protect your own security guard? Why go to these absolutely extreme lengths? Because the answer is the protocol assumes the security guard itself could be the threat. First, what if the AI just breaks? We've all seen stories of AIs going haywire. Second, what if a clever attacker designs a payload that doesn't attack the system, but secretly retrains the inspector AI to ignore the next attack? And third, this guarantees that any sensitive data the AI looks at is never ever logged or used to train future models. And this whole two-stage process has a really cool name, the epistemic airlock. And it's more than just a cool name, it's a deep idea. The first sandbox isolates the action. The second one isolates the judgment about the action. This separation makes sure the part of the system making the security decision can never, ever be contaminated by the part that handled the potentially hostile code. Okay, everything we've talked about so far has been about building this impenetrable fortress. But what if this system could go on the offense? What if, instead of just a high wall, you surrounded your castle with a confusing, hostile labyrinth designed to trap and confuse your enemies? Yeah, this is the classic split between passive and active defense. Passive defense is just putting up a shield and waiting to get hit. Active defense is, well, it's laying traps. It's about enticing attackers, misleading them, and ultimately not just blocking them, but studying them.
The way it does this is with a concept that sounds straight out of a cyberpunk novel, the bot yammer. Its job is to create a digital fog of war. It just floods the network with tons of realistic-looking but totally fake traffic. It sets up decoy servers and databases that look tempting to an attacker, making it almost impossible to know what's real and what's a trap.
And here is where it all comes together. This isn't just about tricking hackers, it's about learning from them. It creates this incredible intelligence loop. An attacker messes with a decoy from the bot yammer, and in doing so, reveals their new technique. That intel is immediately fed to the AI inspector. And just like that, the data airlock is now armed against this brand new threat before it even has a chance to hit the real system. The system learns from its enemies in real time. All right, we've just built this unbelievable, self-learning, paranoid fortress. It sounds amazing, but now we have to have the come back to reality talk. What does all this actually cost? And the first cost is a big one. It's speed. Just look at this chart. A normal API call, maybe 50 milliseconds. But with this protocol, where you're spinning up 2 separate micro VMs for every single call, you're looking at something like 400 milliseconds. That's an eternity in computing. For most applications, that's just a deal breaker. And let's be really clear about what that means. For more than 99% of applications out there, this is a total non-starter. It's just too slow, too expensive, too complicated. It's only even thinkable for that tiny, tiny fraction of systems where a breach isn't just bad, it's absolutely catastrophic. And it's not just about latency. Think about the sheer computational cost, the raw number of servers you'd need to run millions of these little micro VMs. Then there's the operational complexity. I mean, how do you even debug something like this? And maybe the biggest risk of all, the human factor. A well-meaning engineer gets frustrated and builds a little backdoor for convenience, and accidentally creates the system's biggest vulnerability. So really, the big takeaway here is that this is not for everyday stuff. This isn't for your social media app. We're talking about a very, very small number of scenarios where the stakes are unbelievably high. Nuclear command and control, top-secret intelligence platforms, safety systems for a power grid, places where failure is not an option.
So that kind of leaves us with this big, lingering question for the future. This protocol, it's just way too much for most of us today. But with the way cyber threats are evolving, with AI-driven attacks getting more and more sophisticated, could some of these paranoid ideas actually be a blueprint for the high-stakes systems we're all going to depend on tomorrow?